Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shireen Falasteen and I'm going to be making mini Asabeh Zaynab. Crunchy on the outside, soft and chewy on the inside. If you want to know how to make this crowd pleaser with the ultimate recipe and technique, just keep watching. Alright, let's get started. I am going to be using fine semolina. Now, if you can only get your hands on coarse semolina, go ahead and use it. I will be discussing later on in the video the difference it makes in your dough. Next, I will be adding all-purpose flour. Next, we're going to be adding the signature taste to Asabeh Zaynab, which is anise powder or seeds. I have powdered it here. If you don't have anise powder, use star anise. They are very, very similar. Star anise just happens to be a little stronger. I am also adding a little bit of salt and instant yeast. Now the yeast is going to give us a very light and fluffy interior while the exterior is very crunchy. Okay, now I'm going to be using 1/4 cup of vegetable oil and room temperature butter. Now if you don't have butter, it's okay, just use all vegetable oil, that's fine. It's not going to change too much in your final product. Up next is my warm water. Now, for the purpose of this video, I added my water and my milk separately. However, usually I just add my milk and my water into a cup and then I warm it in the microwave really quickly. And that does one of two things. First, it allows the yeast to more quickly bloom and lift our dough. Second of all, it will allow the semolina in the dough to absorb the fluids and the moisture in the surrounding dough very quickly. Now, I can describe semolina like cornmeal. It is more granular and needs a chance to absorb and become one with the dough. So usually when we use semolina, we do allow it to sit for a little bit. I am going to keep kneading my dough until it bends without cracking. Now, that just means I'm going to take a little piece and create a U shape. If it creates the U shape nicely like it is here without cracking, then my dough is complete. I'm going to let this rest for an hour. Now, I noticed that this dough, you can make it in advance by a few hours, okay? Now after 1 hour, my dough has rested and my semolina has had a chance to absorb all of that buttery, milky goodness. So what you're gonna see is the dough has slightly lifted, but not too much, and it is still kind of firm. Some of the semolina has kind of dried out and become even more granular, while the most of it has really combined nicely. I'm going to be adding 4 tablespoons of water at this point. Now, the reason why I didn't add them in the beginning is because semolina loves moisture, so it would have just drank it all up and more. Adding it now means the moisture makes that dough very flexible and easy to emboss. Embossing is the process of stamping a design into our Asabeh Zaynab. This dough is going to give you a very clean, defined design, whereas if I did not add that water, it would more easily crack while I am rolling it out and it might not take that shape very nicely. So here I am cutting gumball sized dough pieces. Now I'm going to play around with what I have in the kitchen, and I cannot brave about this gnocchi board enough because it gives such an elegant linear design and you don't see that. It's very unique. So I'm taking that little dough ball. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. I'm taking that little dough ball and I'm going from one corner to the opposite corner. So I'm going diagonally down, and I have found that it gives me the best result. The classic Asabeh Zaynab design is the cheese grater, and I'm using the mini side because I am making mini Asabeh Zaynab. Look how pretty it is. Now you see that dip in the center? That is very important for thorough and even frying. Get creative and play around with your Asabeh Zaynab sizes. This allowed me to kind of make them into a floral-like shape. They laid nicely against each other because they went from small to big. Now let's just say you used coarse semolina. It will not affect your final result. It's more of an aesthetic thing because you might notice white little freckles on your Asabeh Zaynab, but that's okay. If you don't mind it, it's fine. It doesn't change the taste. But if you wanted to get rid of that, just let your dough rest a little longer and the semolina will continue to absorb that water and the moisture in the dough and it disappears. I've tried it several times and it just disappears. So here I am making even smaller ones. Okay, so these are going to be the ones that are on the inside of my, you'll see on the moon shape. But look how pretty they are. Look how pretty the anise freckles the Asabeh Zaynab so nicely. Now you can actually put the anise seeds whole, which a lot of people do. But I do like to add it powdered because it perfumes the dough very nicely and thoroughly, and it actually kind of slightly tints it yellow. I am setting up my frying station with a flavorless oil, guys, please. Flavorless oil, simple syrup, and a cooling rack. And I'm putting those side by side because this goes fast. We're going from the frying oil to the simple syrup to the cooling rack. Now you have two options here. I am adding my first batch. All right. If you want it more crunchier, fry at a medium-high heat. When you fry at a lower temperature, the item that you're frying, which is our Asabeh Zaynab, take longer to brown, right? Meaning that there is more time for moisture to escape and evaporate the Asabeh Zaynab, yielding a very crunchy Asabeh Zaynab. Now, I also noticed that when I fried them at a medium-high heat, I got a very defined shape. So that was the more prettier shape, whereas I know other people love a more fluffier or chubby Asabeh Zaynab. So high heat yielded very fluffy and chubbier ones, whereas medium heat gave me a very defined and more crispy Asabeh Zaynab. But if you ask my personal opinion, I swear I could not choose. They were both so good, and you have so much that you can just try both ways. Okay, immediately after draining them from the oil, I'm going to drop them into room temperature simple syrup for not more than 10 to 15 seconds, and then boom, on to the cooling rack to allow it to drain from excess oil and simple syrup. This is going to give you a dessert that is not overwhelmingly sweet and it is not excessively greasy, making your family come back for it again and again. Mark my words. Pro tip, Asabeh Zaynab are best fried right after you roll them. Why? They hold their shape very nicely. So what I did was kind of roll out two batches of Asabeh Zaynab before I got started frying. Then as I was frying, I was rolling on the side. That made sure that I had enough in advance to fry without them sitting long enough to lose their shape, because guys, don't forget we have yeast in them, which actually makes them very light and bright on the inside. So don't skip the yeast. Now, fun fact, Asabeh Zaynab mean Zaynab's fingers, and they refer to these really chubby fingers, so it's actually a really cute name, which make them that much more interesting. So again, guys, we are dipping them in our cooled simple syrup, and I want you to notice that as soon as it hits the simple syrup, it darkens by a shade or two, meaning that when you're frying it, take it out a little bit lighter than you want the final dessert to look like. And continue to do this until all your Asabeh Zaynab are fried. And what I really like about Asabeh Zaynab is they are spectacular served fresh, but they also sit nicely for days in an airtight container. So this travels really well. Now guys, take a look at this. Oh my God. They have dripped and dried to absolute perfection. Not too sweet, not too big, crunchy on the outside, so soft on the inside. And you guys, look at that design. It is so clear and outstanding, and that's because of that water that I add right before rolling it out. I have created the perfect Asabeh Zaynab recipe. You can do this with your kids. You can share this on any special occasion, especially Eid and Ramadan. This uniquely shaped, deep-fried confection originates in Egypt and has become popular in all of the neighboring Middle Eastern countries. not gonna lie, guys, these were hard to keep on the table. They were gone within 20 minutes. They were so good. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys give this a try. And if you haven't watched last week's video, it is in the upper left-hand corner. I made the most simple, elegant lentil soup. It is the perfect consistency to sop up with bread and soup crackers next to some herbs and fresh veggies. Guys, give this a try. It was ready in under 20 minutes. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this week's video and press that bell notification to see when next week's video drops. I am making mlokhia. Alright guys, I will see you in the next one. Stay safe and stay well. And stay home.